Today's episode of Entertainment Drive-Thru is brought to you by Audible.com. Audible.com has over 180,000 audiobooks and audio products. Get your free audiobook of your choice at audibletrial.com/edrivethru.
Welcome to Entertainment Drive-Thru. Today's special is E.G. Daily, legendary voice actress.
Dramatist man.
Quiet on the set.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to
Hello, welcome to Entertainment Drive-Thru. I'm Anna, with me is my co-host Dan, and today we have an amazing actress, voiceover actress, singer. You may know her and love her as Tommy Pickles on the Rugrats, or as Buttercup in Powerpuff Girls, or Babe and Pig in the City, or 1,000 other characters. Let's welcome the one, the only, E.G. Daily!
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Wow. Wow, that was very enthusiastic. Thank you.
Absolutely. I love that Anna and I were talking before this, and neither one of us knew exactly how we were going to be able to do that intro with everything you've done.
Well, you did pretty darn good, so thank you.
Well, and I have to say, before we get too far into this, Anna is actually a little bit upset with you because back in the 90s, you betrayed Phoebe Buffay in Friends.
I'm so sorry, but I was looking out for her making a lot of money with the jingle.
This is true.
Which is very E.G. Daily. I mean, come on, you were a voiceover actress, right? Jingles, voiceover, something to do with making people happy.
Yeah, it's anything and everything having to do with the voice and contorting myself into all different kinds of people and sounds and singing. It's all and everything having to do with the voice.
And then you were on The Voice, so it fits perfectly to the whole scheme.
And I listen to my inner voice, which is the most important thing.
Yes, exactly. Perfect.
Well, I have to ask, though, how did you get started in all this stuff that you do?
Well, I have to say, the beginnings for me were just like when I was really young, picking up a guitar book and writing little songs and singing little songs. I always kind of had an ear for writing music, and I had an ear for singing, and I also used to dance. Like I was a little ballerina, and I danced. So I knew it was something artistic. The acting kind of came around later because I felt a little shy when I was really young.
Oh, yeah?
So it was hard for me. And as I got overcame my shyness and my acting started to bloom.
Nice.
And then one day I did a play, a musical, and then in the play I had to do all these different age ranges of a character, and then somebody heard me and asked if I was interested in voiceover, and I was kind of like, I had no idea. I mean, I'm a singer, I'm an actress, but I was sort of flattered, and I said, of course, I'll try it.
Right.
I'll try whatever. And it kind of required my acting and my singing voice, but it was all in this other realm, which I thought was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And which I talk about in this voiceover seminar that I just released. I released a voiceover seminar on Amazon, E.G. Daily Up Close and Personal, and I also released E.G. Daly's one-woman autobiographical musical on Amazon on digital. So what I was saying is, one thing sort of led to the next, and before you know it, I was doing voiceover, and I was doing like 8 series a week, and then I would go off and do a movie. Then I would go off and play on the Sunset Strip and with my band. And I would go off and get a record deal. And it just like everything just kept flowing with art, anywhere in art.
I was going to say, is there anything that you haven't done yet?
Be a paramedic.
Oh,
I like to do that.
Really?
I'd like to do that for a little while. Learn enough of it to be able to be a EMT, a paramedic.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Ooh. That's very helpful.
Because there's always people like I'm always stopping when there's accidents and stuff, and I just kind of have this desire to tell people when they're in a state of like shock and fear. And so, there's something about that for me. But as far as artistically, there's probably not much that I haven't done.
Yeah.
I'd have to.
But she could calm people down with her Tommy Pickles voice.
That's right. I'm like, it is not done. You're going to be just fine. Yeah.
Well, and I have to ask, because you talk about how you got into this stuff, but, when is that moment that you realized that being in the entertainment industry, and all the things that you do, that's what you were meant to do? It wasn't going to be starting a newspaper called the EG Daily.
Yeah.
You wanted to be in the entertainment industry.
Right. I just knew that I wasn't really good with, academic stuff in school. And I felt kind of inadequate because I wasn't very good with reading, writing, spelling. I was good with poetry and writing as far as artistic, but I wasn't good with math and all the academic things. And I felt kind of inadequate. My handwriting is like a kid. It's really embarrassing. So thank God for dictating. You can dictate now. You just So I think what happened was it was sort of like my way of, and I had a lot of ADD issues and focus issues. So it was sort of my weird way of wow, I can do art and I don't look stupid.
Yeah.
And it sort of it kind of made itself for me. It was like, wow, I can sing, I can write music. I don't have to have a long attention span. I can just have fun.
Perfect.
And I love it. And it moves me and it makes me feel good. So there. You know what I mean? So my motto is just try to lean into things that rock my world and make me feel good and I enjoy and make me happy,
Right.
to the best of my ability.
Well, and I have to say, I love I know you probably told this story thousands of times, but it's my absolute favorite story. Is I love how you actually got the role of Tommy Pickles, because I love that you'd said in interviews that you just started doing that from a young age, and it's just amazing that voice naturally was what they needed for Tommy.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was a little girl, I would walk around the playground with my best friend. We'd hold pinkies and we would talk like babies, and so that voice was being developed in me as a little girl. And then who knew that years and years and years later, I was going to go on an audition where they needed a voice that matched the face of that character. Right. And I was like, wow, I feel like that voice I've been doing my whole life is kind of perfect for that. And I did it, and it was, and so Tommy Pickles was born. And, that's why I always tell everybody, to pay attention to the things they do when they're little, because it might be some weird, like some guy I talked to was always fascinated with pictures and imagery, and, he's a great photographer today. But sometimes kids have parents that tell them to do something else rather than look at what they're actually leaning into naturally with their gift. And then that starts a whole lifetime of depression because they don't know why they're not happy, and it's usually because they're not following their desires and their art. And so I think it's real important as a parent to really watch your kids and notice what they're doing. And my mother was like that. She just noticed that I was good at dancing and singing and writing, and she just sort of moved me towards that as opposed to telling me to do something else.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's amazing. And I was actually thinking about this recently because, I was thinking about the fact that, you never know when that one moment in your life that completely changes the rest of or at least several years for you, you never know when that's going to happen. For me, for example, in 2011, I moved from Michigan to Los Angeles, and at the end of the first month in Los Angeles, I met Anna. And it was because I went to see Jimmy Kimmel Live. And ever since then, we got married. We ended up moving recently to Iceland, recently meaning 7 months ago. And and it's amazing. And this show, we've done over 200 interviews, actually close to 300 now. And it's amazing. I never would have thought that in the first month. I never would have thought it.
Well, because it was a flowing, spontaneous, life-changing decision that you made based on something you were just interested in doing. So you were like, I want to go to Jimmy Kimmel. Because you listened and you went to Jimmy Kimmel that night. The universe put something magical. I tell people, always listen to that little voice. I get a weird voice. I had a boyfriend, and whenever he wanted to take me out, everything was so planned. And I'd say, I don't really want to do that tonight. I want to do this.
Yeah.
And he was so rigid. He was so rigid that I think he missed a lot of the magical moments that he could have, because that little voice saying, don't go there, go there. Go to that open market today. Go to that open market and get beautiful flowers. And then I run into the most amazing person that ends up being one of my closest friends ever, because I listened to that desire to go get those beautiful flowers at open market rather than did what I thought I had to do that day. So I think that being too rigid kind of limits that miracle. It's like your miracle of meeting your partner that you end up doing all this productivity with. So it's like, it's pretty powerful when you listen, and be willing to change your routine.
Oh, yeah.
Some people have really, really rigid routines. You know, like I said, this one guy I dated, everything was so rigid that I would watch it because I'm very intuitive. And I would be like, you're missing all the magic of the moment. You're planning so much, you're not having any spontaneity things happen. You're not having serendipitous things happen. And so I'm a real fan of, like, honoring that little tiny voice that tells you to do things.
Yeah.
Even if it's weird. Like, my kids are like, Mommy, I'm having this desire to do this thing. I'm like, that sounds awesome. Go for it. You know?
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break to listen to a clip from Wait by E.G. Daily featuring Jim Kaufman. But we will be right back. Another thing I was thinking about recently is the idea of, I feel like I've had this thought specifically because of a certain presidential election possibility. But I found that one thing that I find is a big problem with a lot of people is they're very closed-minded, and not necessarily about like things like politics or religion or any of that. I just feel like people kind of close their minds off to just not taking risks, not thinking about, like how you were saying, like being open to, like someone, saying that what you're doing may not be exactly what you need to be doing. It's kind of like that. And I was, thinking the problem with it, with, being so closed off is it gets rid of your creativity. It kind of, hinders, that emotion of inspiration. And so that's one of those things where I feel like just in general, people need to be a lot more open-minded and, especially in the arts.
Well, yeah, hey, if I hadn't been so open and receptive to this guy handing me his card at my play 20 whatever years ago saying, you're really good with your voice, you should do voiceover. If I was closed-minded, I wouldn't have called that guy that day.
Right.
And had an enormous career open up to me that changed my life.
Exactly.
Rugrats, Tommy Pickles, Buttercup, Babe, Powerpuff Girls, Happy Feet. My whole life transformed because of this being open to this man seeing something in me. And I call that in my voiceover seminars that I do, I call that offshoots, where you're going along your path, but then somebody taps you on the shoulder and goes, hey, check this out. And if you're too rigid, you'd be like, no, that's not in my path. That's not what I'm trying to do. But, being open to, like, there might be offshoots of what you like to do that are a little different than what you think, but might actually lead you right back to everything you could have ever dreamed of.
Exactly.
Voiceovers led me right back to, like, an amazing career.
Yeah. And I was actually going to say, speaking of your voiceover career, one thing that I find kind of interesting about you, and I've noticed this about, like Tara Strong as well. You have like a habit of getting roles as like a bunch of female characters and then a bunch of male characters. And do you have, like, have you ever been upset about the fact that you've had to play so many male characters, or is it just because I think it's just the beauty of voice acting. It's like anyone can be anyone.
I love men and boys, and I love humans, and I love getting the opportunity to play them. And I'm a woman in a woman's body, but I get to be a man and a boy, and not a man, I don't do man voices, but I get to be a boy, and I get to be a kid, and I get to be a teen boy. And so I have nothing, there's not one thing not to like about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, because that's
all, like, great.
Because that's one of those things that I just love about voice acting that I think it's kind of like not really looked at by, people that are thinking of getting into it. I think, one of the best things about it is the fact that no matter who you are, no matter what build you are, no matter what gender you are, race, whatever, you can play anyone as long as you have the voice for it.
Absolutely. That's why being a voiceover is so awesome, is because, as a voice artist, you can be anything and everything. You can be a lamppost. You can be a pillow talking. You can be a car talking. You could be a ball talking. And you can be anything. You're not limited by anything.
Yeah,
Amazing.
like I love it was the voice actor Eric Bauza was saying that that it's funny because like if you're a nerd you can play a jock, if you're a jock you can play a nerd, if you're like a dude you can play a princess. Like it's just amazing the kinds of things that you could do. And I mean on this kind of topic, I wanted to ask, how do you go about developing like the voice of a character? How do you go about, I mean, do you look at sketches? Do you have to have like a video clip? How do you go about it?
It just depends on the job. Usually they show you a photo of the character.
Right.
That's the main thing. It's usually a photo right at the top of the line. And, sometimes they show you a few photos of the character, like in different positions. So you get an idea of like how that character moves its mouth, gets its little mouth over, how the lips look. And I basically just like look at facial structure, like, people have certain lips, certain mouths, certain tongues, certain cheeks, certain ways their words come out. Some people talk like more like this, and everything is very at the tip of their tongue. It's very right at the tip of their teeth, and they're very particular about everything, right? And then you have like a little chubby kid might be like, well, everything sort of comes through their mouth, and his mouth is sort of big and puffy, so everything sounds a little bit puffy,
Right.
And it's all about watching the face, and when I see photographs of characters, right away that tells me how to do the voice.
Interesting.
And then the casting person might say, or the director might say, that's the right voice, now make him a little older. So when I'm talking like this, then I would sort of make them sound a little bit older like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty fun game.
Yeah. And I think it was in the documentary, I Know That Voice, that you were saying with Tommy Pickles, for example, the fact that, like the way that his lips were drawn kind of, helped you develop the direction of the voice, as opposed to like if he had more teeth, or if he had, like fuller lips or something like that. I remember you said it was something about the lips.
Yeah, because his lips were real big and floppy. His lips are kind of like, and so when I started to try to ask for the most, his lips were always kind of flopping underneath for his teeth. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah, that dictated that was the voice, and that's kind of how real kids talk. They kind of talk like that, kind of like, little kids have very specific speech patterns, or rather random speech patterns, like, oh, I was looking for my mom, and my mom knows where we're going next. It's like everything is a little broken up because they're still trying to figure it out.
Right,
so
exactly.
It's fun. It's really fun to study kids and then learn their speech patterns, which are all over the place.
Right. And, with your career as a whole to this point, what has been one of the biggest challenges for you, maybe in voice acting, or, in singing? What's been one of the biggest challenges? I guess it's kind of a really broad question.
Yeah. The biggest challenges in voice acting, it's like, what pajamas do I get? What sweatpants can I wear? No, it's kind of like, how do I not crack myself up during the session? I'm supposed to like not be laughing. Half the time we're cracking each other up, and then sometimes when you start a roll of laughter, you can't stop. That's probably the biggest challenge.
Right.
When you guys start laughing and you can't stop, that's the challenge, is how to stop when you gotta get serious and do your line and everybody's cracking up. It's it's quality problem.
Yeah, I love that we've talked to several voice actors who have said it's like everyone sits there and watches the cartoons and they think, how the hell do they keep a straight face during that? And they're all just we can't. We can't. There's a lot of B-rolls of people cracking up. It's really like, honestly, it's a really fun career, and it's really fun. It's lucrative. It's fun. It's sweet. Every day I'm grateful that I get to do it. Yeah.
Every day.
And we're grateful because we love your voices.
Yes.
But speaking of fun and challenging, we actually have a new challenge for you today, because we are up to our segment, the question of the day. Today's episode of Entertainment Drive-Thru is brought to you by Audible.com. Audible.com is offering listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/edrivethru and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's just that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/edrivethru. That's audibletrial.com/edrivethru and get started today.
Let's hear it.
Now, this is a special challenge because you play a lot of kid voices. So your question is, what is one of your favorite kid insults?
I think just when they're like, why you so fat? Like that.
What was it?
Why so fat?
Why you so fat?
just that, like nothing else to it.
Or just like, why you got a fat belly? You know, just
How do you
candid.
answer that? Like, I love that with kids. They just say whatever comes to their mind without, like, no filter. And exactly this, like, how do you respond to that? You're like...
Well, I love that Anna. This was Anna's question when she first came to, because Anna's Icelandic, and when she first came to the States, to Los Angeles, she started hearing everyone say "no offense," and she was like, "What the hell is no offense? It's totally offensive."
I'm sorry, that's the best thing ever. That's like when you're about to pull a kid. It's just like, no offense, but you suck. Like, it's literally up to that point. And I'm like, you're literally saying a word that not even apologize, just says like, I'm gonna say something really, really mean. No offense.
That's so funny. Yeah, no offense, but you're so fat.
Exactly.
That's so funny.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
No offense, but your teeth are green.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. It's always like the silliest. It's always like the silliest things that like kids will say, and it's like, you know, when they say it, it's like it's not that big of a deal because it's a kid. But at the same time, it's like, did you really just say that?
You know what's bad? It is probably true though. It's probably what everybody's thinking, and he's just saying it out loud. That's the sad part. It really is sometimes. You know, it's like it's like the elephant in the room that they point out to.
So funny. I love kids for that.
Yeah.
I love them because they're authentic, and you know when they tell you they love you, it's
That's so true.
Yeah.
It's all real.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the interview now that we've had our insulting fun, but now I wanted to ask, you know, so far with your career as a whole, you know, and actually this is a special request that every time we have a voice actor, we have them do this answer in the voice of one of their characters. So you get to choose. But what has been some of the best advice that someone's given you along the way that you would recommend to someone just getting started?
One of the best advices in my character.
Like you say the answer in your character's voice.
I see. And it could be a real answer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're really interested in doing voiceover, then you should really learn how to act. Because if you could do a cool voice, that's super cool, right? But if you can't act, that's not so good. So make sure you know how to act, because having a cool voice just isn't going to cut it. Got it?
That deserves a clap. I have to say, one of the reasons I love having people do this in their characters' voices is because if you really think about it, when you're smiling and you're laughing at what someone's saying, you're actually paying attention to what they're saying, and I feel like the advice gets out there better. But I think that's such a good point, and I love that, and that's like. I love that. That's like the motto of the documentary. I know that voice, but it's such a good point. Is because everyone looks at voice acting like, oh, you just do a silly voice and then you get paid lots of money, and it's like, well, that's all fine and dandy. You can do a really silly voice, but can you go past that? Like, can you sing as that character? Can you get punched as that character? You know, can you read Shakespeare as that character?
Or can you do it with a voice like this?
Yeah.
with a voice so hoarse you can't even talk.
That's exactly right. It's like it's so much more than just having a good voice.
Yeah.
Because, you have to be able to believe that character with your eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not seeing them. You have to close your eyes and hear that voice and believe it.
Yeah.
So you better be a good actor.
Yeah, like I forget exactly who said it, but someone at one point said it's like, you can do an amazing Daffy Duck, but if you can't actually read a script in that voice, then it's meaningless. It's pointless. No one cares that you can do that impression.
I still loved in the documentary where they said, like, find the most boring book you'll ever read and try to do that in a fun accent. Like, try to make it funny.
That's awesome, yeah. There's a lot of good tools. I give a lot of good tips and tools in my seminar about, just different little things that you can learn about. There's so many fun tips and tools for voiceover. There's so many.
Yeah.
But speaking of advice, how do you, because you change between a lot of characters, how do you remember what character you're doing and how to access it? Do you have like specific ways of doing it? Like, do you grab something, or like, do you think a certain way, or put on music or something to like memorize the character?
No. You know how you're different? You guys are two different people?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no way I'm going to mistake you for him, right?
Yeah, right.
And that means I'm not going to mistake Buttercup for Tommy Pickle because they're very different.
Right.
So there's never a confusion because even if I'm tired or drunk, which that depends on really, but if I'm out of my mind, they're still going to be very different people.
Yeah.
So I don't really have to do much. They live in me and they come out of me, but there's no confusion about who they are.
Yeah. Well, and actually, in honor of Anna's current voice condition, I was wondering, as someone who relies on their voice for a career, what do you do when you get a hoarse voice, or when you get a cold? Because if you lose your voice, there's pretty much no way you can work.
Sometimes my voice is, for some reason, I can always squeeze it enough to get the voice I need out.
Okay.
There's been very few times where it was really like strong. Like right now, my voice is a little worse because I'm preparing for a live show.
Okay.
I'm singing a lot and I'm doing sessions every day, but it's still really strong. My singing voice is strong. Because my chords are sort of so developed. But I think the key really for me is making sure I get enough sleep.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
sleep, when your adrenal glands are low, then your voice gets more hoarse. So I find that if I just get enough sleep, I'm ahead of the game.
Right.
Right now, I'm a little tired right now, so I'll probably take a nap at some point, and that'll help my voice. It's really about sleep.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I wanted to ask about your singing now, because we've focused this whole interview on voice acting, but that's only a portion of what you do. And I understand you have a performance coming up in November, right?
Yeah, I'm headlining the Whiskey Theater on the Sunset Strip.
Nice.
Which is ironic because I played the Sunset Strip my whole life, and I started playing the strip when I was 15.
Wow.
So here I am going back there decades later, headlining my Sunset Strip, which is really fun.
How does it feel though? Because this strip has changed so much in like
The strip, but some of those clubs are still pretty much like what they were.
Yeah.
They're still the strip has changed. There's new stuff there, but the clubs are still the clubs. The Troubadour, the Whiskey, they're iconic. They're still basically the same. Maybe they'll change a little bit, but pretty much the same. So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, well, and I wanted to ask, when it comes to your music, because I understand, you write your own music. How do you go about writing a song?
I just sometimes start singing something.
Okay.
And then I'll go to my guitar and I'll start picking at it, and then I'll just make it an idea for a word, and then it varies. Sometimes I come up with a title I like, and I start picking with my guitar and I start writing.
Mm-hmm.
It changes all the time, but I don't know, just music comes to me. It's like it flies into me, and I listen to it, and I'm like, oh, that's a song trying to come out. and then they come out, and it's almost like they're channeled into me. Honestly, I don't really feel like I feel like they're channeled into me. So weird.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a pattern about what you talk about in your songs?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about what's really going on. So most of my records and my music are very autobiographical. And that means it could be about, like, I'm walking through some fear right now, or it could be I'm feeling super happy, or I'm not liking what's going on here, or, you know, just basically I just kind of channel whatever's happening in my life.
Right.
So all my music is autobiographical, all of it. When you hear records, depending on what time period I wrote it, it's usually based on what's going on for me. And I try to be very kind of specific, because then more people relate.
Yeah. Well, and I have to ask, do you ever have like, if you ever get into like writer's block, do you ever start singing as one of your characters, and that like helps you out?
I love that you're coming up with that idea. That's such a funny idea. That's so cute. No, I can't say that Tommy Pickles helps me break my writer's block.
Right.
What helps me break my writer's block is just being in the moment and not being in fear and being connected to people. And I don't have to think too hard. Things just sort of like flow. And then, you know, the only times I don't write is when just mostly like staying present. And when I'm not present or I'm worried about things, then I get a little blocked because I'm not flowing. It's trying to stay very flowing in my day. Stay in the moment. You know, sounds strange, but it all has a lot to do with flow and being blocked or not being blocked.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we are getting down to the end of our interview, but before we go, where are places that our listeners can find out more information about you and all the work that you do?
You guys can follow me at Twitter. I'm at RealEGDaily. Make sure you go to RealEGDaily. And then I'm on Instagram at RealEGDaily. On Spotify, which I think is at RealEGDaily as well, or maybe it's just EGDaily. I'm my Brian really fun. I have Facebook, which is my fan page, and the main place you can go to is egdaily.com. The links are there for the seminar, the One Woman Show. Those will link you right up to Amazon, and also just shares a lot of what's going on, all up-to-date stuff. I do have the Rob Zombie movie coming out. And
Yeah, nice.
Every March. It's going to be a blast. They're saying it's one of the best movies ever, and he said that my character is really badass, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that turned out.
Nice.
I post everything, so come find me on egdaily.com, and all my links to social media are on there, too.
Oh, before we go, I'm sorry. Since I love Friends, I have to ask you about your experience. I don't know if you like the show or not, but I have to ask.
Which show? Friends?
Yeah, how was that experience like?
Oh, I love doing that. That was such a blast. Friends was awesome. Friends was an awesome experience, and the director is Robbie Benson, who I had a huge crush on back then anyway.
Nice.
So that was pretty much the best part of doing Friends was that it turned out that Robbie Benson was my director on that episode, and I was like, oh my God, Robbie Benson! I had such a huge crush on him.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much, EG, for being on the show. It's really been an absolute honor to talk to you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. And for more information on EG Daily and the podcast, go to entertainmentdrivethru.com and subscribe on iTunes. Like and follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/entertainmentdrivethru and our Twitter and Instagram at edrivethru.
Hi, I'm EG Daily, and you're listening to Entertainment Drive-Thru. Vroom, vroom.